On April 12, 1992, one of the most powerful companies in the world threw a party. They shipped in celebrities from Hollywood. They broadcast the event live across 22 countries. Michael J. Fox, Eddie Murphy, all walking down Main Street, USA. George Lucas filmed it on his camcorder. Fireworks, fanfare, royalty, and then almost nobody showed up. For a park designed to hold 60,000 guests, only around 25,000 walked through the gates that first day. Hotels stood half empty. Outside the gates, French farmers were blockading the entrance, furious about American influence on European soil. A French theater director called it a cultural Chernobyl. A journalist at Le Figaro wrote that he wished protesters would set fire to the place. Welcome to EuroDisney, the most ambitious, most expensive, and most spectacular marketing failure in the history of the entertainment industry. By 1994, just 2 years after opening, EuroDisney had accumulated losses of over $2 billion. Its share price had collapsed from 880 pence on opening day to an all-time low. The park was days away from closing permanently, and the Walt Disney Company, the most beloved brand on the planet, was scrambling to avoid the most public humiliation in its history. This is the story of how a company with unlimited resources, world-class talent, and decades of experience managed to get almost everything wrong. And more importantly, what every brand, marketer, and entrepreneur can learn from it. To understand why EuroDisney failed so catastrophically, you first need to understand why Disney was so confident it would succeed. By the mid-1980s, Disney was on the greatest run in its corporate history. Under Chief Executive Michael Eisner, the company had transformed from a struggling studio into an entertainment empire. Theme parks in California and Florida were pulling in over 50 million visitors a year. Then came Tokyo. In 1983, Disney partnered with a Japanese company called Oriental Land to open Tokyo Disneyland. The results were extraordinary. By the late 1980s, Tokyo was drawing 15 million visits a year, more than any other Disney park on Earth. The Japanese did not just accept Disney, they embraced it completely. Disney's Japanese partners had specifically resisted any attempt to localize the park. They wanted the real thing, an exact replica of the American experience. It worked beyond anyone's wildest expectations. So when Disney looked west to Europe, the logic seemed airtight. Europe had 330 million people within reach. Europeans were already spending enormous amounts on Disney merchandise. 2 million Europeans visited Disneyland and Walt Disney World every single year. France had excellent infrastructure, government support, and a central location in Western Europe. Everything pointed to an obvious conclusion. If it worked in Japan, it would work in Europe. That assumption would cost them over $2 billion. In 1984, Disney began selecting a site for its European park. After evaluating over 1,200 potential locations, they narrowed it down to 4, 2 in France and 2 in Spain. Spain had one massive advantage: the weather. Sunshine, warmth, year-round outdoor appeal, everything a theme park needs. But Paris won, and here is why. A site called Marne-la-Vallée, 32 kilometers east of Paris, sat at the geographic heart of Western Europe. Within 160 kilometers, 16 million people lived. Within 480 kilometers, 109 million people lived. Paris already had world-class transport links, motorways, 2 international airports, a direct high-speed rail connection, and a commuter line that could bring visitors from central Paris in just 40 minutes. On top of that, the French government was offering an extraordinary incentive package: 6 billion French francs in loans, subsidized land, and infrastructure investment. The land itself, 4,500 acres, roughly 1/5 the size of the city of Paris, was purchased at a fraction of market value. On March 24, 1987, Michael Eisner signed the agreement with the French government. Construction began in August 1988. The opening was set for April 1992. Disney committed to building the largest theme park and resort development in European history. 6 hotels, a Magic Kingdom, an entertainment complex, a golf course. Phase 2 would include a second theme park, then a water park, then residential development. The financial projections were euphoric. Consultants projected 11 million visitors in year 1, growing to over 16 million by 2011. Operating profits were expected from day 1. Nobody stopped to ask a simple question. What do French people actually want? Disney made not 1, not 2, but at least 5 major mistakes before the park even opened. And almost all of them share a common root cause: arrogance. The quiet, confident belief that the Disney formula was universal, that culture was irrelevant, that if you build it big enough, people will come. The first mistake was banning wine. France is the largest wine-consuming nation in the world. Wine is not just a drink in France, it is woven into the culture, into daily meals, into French identity itself. Disney's no-alcohol policy was born from a single incident. During a visit to Copenhagen's Tivoli Gardens, Michael Eisner watched a drunk man vomit near a restaurant entrance. He declared on the spot that there would be no alcohol in his parks. That policy was imported wholesale to France. The result was immediate outrage. Visitors could not get a glass of wine with their lunch inside EuroDisney in France in 1992. Disney did allow wine and beer at an entertainment complex just outside the park gates, but the message to French visitors was unmistakable. Disney's rules trumped French culture. By June 1993, after months of complaints, Disney quietly reversed the policy and began serving alcohol inside the park. A concession, but a late one. The damage was already done. The second mistake was overbuilding the hotels spectacularly. Disney had learned from Walt Disney World in Florida that hotels were a cash machine. Keep guests on the property, control every dollar they spend. In Orlando, Disney's hotels ran at 94% occupancy throughout the late 1980s. So for EuroDisney, they built 6 hotels totaling over 5,200 rooms, designed by world-famous architects at enormous cost. One restaurant replaced standard wallpaper with Moroccan leather on the walls because Disney believed that sophisticated Europeans would not tolerate anything cheap or ordinary. The problem was that Europeans do not vacation the way Americans do. In the United States, you fly to Orlando and you stay for a week. You are a captive audience. But EuroDisney was surrounded by Paris, one of the greatest cities on Earth, with thousands of hotels at every price point. French families took shorter, more frequent vacations. They drove to the park for the day and then drove home. Hotel occupancy never reached 50% in the first year, against a projected target of 60%. Disney was forced to slash room rates by 25% almost immediately. Those enormous, expensive, beautifully designed hotels became one of the biggest anchors dragging EuroDisney toward bankruptcy. The third mistake was misreading European vacation behavior entirely. Disney's entire business model assumed that European families would stay multiple days, just as they did in Florida. Instead, EuroDisney became a day trip destination. Visitors came for one day, spent 12% less than the forecast of $33 per person, and left. The parks were overwhelmed on a handful of public holidays and almost empty the rest of the time. The fourth mistake was ignoring the economic environment. 1992 was one of the worst years for the European economy since World War II. Interest rates were rising sharply. The French franc was under pressure. Unemployment was climbing across Disney's core markets. Crucially, the transatlantic airfare war of 1992 and 1993 had made flying to Orlando so cheap that a British family of 4 found it genuinely cheaper to spend 2 weeks in Florida than 5 days at EuroDisney. Disney's financial model had assumed smooth economic conditions. There was no plan for a recession, no contingency, no stress testing. The fifth mistake, and perhaps the most damaging, was creating an identity crisis. Nobody at Disney could agree on what EuroDisney actually was. Was it an American park transplanted to Europe? Was it a European park with American themes? Was it French? Was it international? The park tried to be everything and ended up feeling like nothing in particular. As one visitor put it at the time, they had not yet figured out whether it was going to be an American park, a French park, or a European park. Meanwhile, French intellectuals were not just indifferent, they were openly hostile. The park was described in the French press as a horror made of cardboard, plastic, and appalling colors, idiotic folklore, taken straight out of comic books written for obese Americans. Shortly after opening, farmers blockaded the entrance in protest. A terrorist bomb attempt tried to cut power to the park on its opening day. Protesters threw ketchup at Michael Eisner during his visit to France. This was not the Magic Kingdom anyone had imagined. By the end of EuroDisney's first full financial year, the scale of the disaster was undeniable. Instead of 11 million visitors, they attracted 9.8 million. The company posted a loss of over $500 million in its first year alone. By early 1994, things were even worse. The park's share price had collapsed from 880 pence on its first trading day to near its all-time low. Cumulative losses hit $2 billion. Rumors spread that the park would be forced to shut permanently, and as those rumors spread, they became self-fulfilling. Visitors stopped coming, revenues fell further, and losses deepened. Crisis talks between Disney, EuroDisneyland, and the creditor banks stretched over months. In June 1994, a massive financial restructuring was agreed. Disney injected over $1.1 billion in new equity. Disney waived all royalties and management fees for 5 years. Hundreds of millions in debt were canceled or deferred. And a Saudi prince, Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, purchased a 10% stake in the company, providing a critical cash injection. At the end of 1994, the park's new chief executive, Philippe Bourguignon, said the best thing about 1994 was that it was over. The rescue did not just involve money, it involved a fundamental rethinking of almost everything. First, the name. EuroDisney became Disneyland Paris in October 1994. It sounds like a small change. It was not. The word Euro had become toxic, associated in the public mind with blandness, bureaucracy, and compromise. Disneyland Paris attached the park to the romance and prestige of one of the world's greatest cities. It gave the park a clear identity, a reason to exist. Second, prices were cut by 1/3. The luxury hotel obsession was scaled back. Fast food, which visitors actually wanted, not the fine dining Disney had insisted on providing, became the priority. Queuing times were cut by 45%. Third, new attractions were added. Space Mountain opened in 1995. Attendance climbed from a low of 8.8 million in 1994 to 11.7 million by 1996, finally hitting the original Year 1 target 4 years late. The park did not just survive. Today, Disneyland Paris is the most visited tourist attraction in Europe, more than the Eiffel Tower and more than the Colosseum in Rome. It welcomes around 15 million visitors a year. The dream survived, but the road there cost billions, nearly destroyed a beloved brand, and became one of the most studied marketing failures in business history. So what are the real lessons here? This story is not just about Disney. It plays out in boardrooms, in startups, and in marketing departments every single day. The first lesson is that success in one market is not a blueprint for another. Tokyo proved that Disney could go international, but the Japanese wanted an authentic American experience, and they actively resisted any localization. France was the opposite. Disney made the fatal mistake of assuming the same approach would work in both places. It did not. Know your market before you build for it. The second lesson is to never confuse the product with the customer. Disney's park was actually excellent. Visitors who came largely enjoyed it. The failure was not in the rides, the failure was in understanding who would come, how they would behave, and what they were willing to pay. Research your customer, not just your concept. The third lesson is that arrogance is the most expensive luxury in business. One former Disney executive said that Eisner and his team had never made a single misstep, never a mistake, never a failure. and that there was a tendency to believe that everything they touched would be perfect. That belief, more than any single decision, is what made the disaster possible. The fourth lesson is that identity matters as much as product. The name change from EuroDisney to Disneyland Paris cost almost nothing and changed everything. Your brand name, your positioning, your story, these are not cosmetic details. They are strategic assets. Get them wrong and you confuse your customer. Get them right and you give them a reason to believe. EuroDisney is a story about ambition, about the intoxicating confidence that comes with success, about what happens when a company stops listening to the world around it and starts believing its own mythology. But it is also a story about recovery, about the resilience of a great brand when it is willing to be humble, to adapt, and to earn back the trust of its audience. If you found this story valuable, and there are very few business stories richer than this one, make sure you subscribe, because every week on this channel we dig into the marketing failures, the brand disasters, and the unlikely comebacks that shaped the business world we live in today. I will see you in the next one.